Welcome to episode 24 of Talking Prisoner. We have another special guest with us today. He appeared in 58 episodes in the final year of Prisoner. He's also appeared in Cop Shop, A Country Practice, Sons and Daughters, and Brides of Christ. He also wrote and produced and starred in Bathing Franky. We are, of course, talking about Michael Winchester, who played the third incarnation of Marty Jackson, the son of Meg Morris. Welcome to Talking Prisoner, Michael, and thanks for joining us. And good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Ken.
Hi there.
Now, before we get into Prisoner, I know the fans will be dying for us to. Can we learn a little about your life growing up? Can you share any memories with us?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was born in Malaysia, and I spent the first 12 years of my life growing up there. I went to primary school there. My father worked for a French rubber company, and he married an Australian woman, and that he worked there for 25 years. And I have fantastic memories of growing up in this exotic location. Wow. And then when I came to Australia, that was a bit of a culture shock. I went straight into a boarding school, and I think, when I left primary school, I guess I was at the, top of the pecking order. And then when I went into secondary school, I found myself at the bottom of the rung again. And I think it was a real culture shock for me. So I feel that I spent most of my secondary school years trying not to be noticed, just trying to stay off the radar. But one of the saving graces was that I loved being in the school plays, and I was a good sports person, so kind of that was my outlet, But coming to Australia was an interesting experience. But I do remember we had going back to Malaya, where I grew up. We had this lovely, great house and a great big back garden, and it had this big hill in the back, and at the bottom of the hill was this cyclone fence, one of those springy kind of wire fences. And I had a go-kart, a metal pedal go-kart. Yeah. And I used to jump into the go-kart at the top of the hill and just fly down this hill straight into the fence. No worries or concerns about my body or anything, and just bounce off this fence and tumble out. And I just thought it was the best thing that I'd ever done. And I'm bringing that to your attention now because I know one of the questions we're going to talk about is the stunts, like diving off that boat later on. But when I went to the VCA, for instance, one of my elective subjects was stunts and circus skills and commedia dell'arte. So I really enjoyed physical performing, and if I ever got a chance to do a stunt, I would do it. I had party tricks where I'd kind of come into a room and sit on the chair and throw myself off the back, and I would kind of walk down some steps and randomly roll down the steps, just to impress people. I don't know if they were impressed or not, but I had a lot of fun. That's one of my strongest memories of growing up in Malaya.
Awesome.
Did you have going back to school, did you have a good subject and a bad subject?
Well, I was certainly into the humanities. I was a shocker at maths. I think I got 19% for my HSC maths. But yeah, I enjoyed English. Drama wasn't a subject that was offered when I went through secondary school. But like I said, I always did the school plays, and I loved Monty Python. They were my heroes. And when I think about the TV shows that I listened to as a kid growing up, they were certainly Monty Python, people like Jerry Lewis, and a lot of the old black and white non-speaking movies, people like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, and the Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers. I just love that. And when I think about it, I think that's really what gave me the inspiration to be an actor, because I used to watch them thinking, I think I could do this, I mean, I didn't get a chance for many years later, but just thinking about it now, they were the kind of the kernel of what encouraged me, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. What did your mum and dad do for a living when you were a child?
Well, Dad went on he was a business manager, a very successful business manager and accountant, and Mum also worked in business. But my father, of course, when I left secondary school, my father, his world was the world of business, and he wanted me to become somewhere in banking and finance, or an accountant like that, you know. And I really didn't want to do it. You know, when you did your HSC, at the end of it, you had to fill out all those lists of what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go to study, you know. So the first 5 were all banking, accounting, financial stuff. But the bottom one was drama at Rusden College, you know. I just kind of squeezed it into the list. Anyway, I ended up going to Caulfield Tech doing a banking and finance course. It lasted 6 months. I was thrown out of my very first marketing tutorial. And, you know, like I said before, I spent my whole school life just trying not to be seen. I mean, I was a model student. I didn't play up or anything. I just kept quiet. But when I went to this banking and finance,
Well,
We've ceased.
Frozen for a minute.
Frozen
Still
for a
there,
lot
Mike?
of minutes.
hi, I'm
No,
back.
Here we are. No, sorry.
Listen, I've got a really dodgy connection here. I'm sorry. I don't have internet, so I'm working off my mobile phone.
Oh,
And when
okay.
I get excited, I bump the table and the connection falls out. So I'm going to sit back and I'm going to fold my arms.
Okay,
So
we can edit some of that out.
I hope you edit a lot of that. So I was telling you about, I was thrown out of my first marketing shoot in my banking and finance course at Caulfield Tech. And so I pulled out of the course, but I had to wait until my mum and dad were on holiday. I couldn't do it while they were in the state, you know. I left the course and I went and got a job delivering newspapers up and down Dandenong Road, jumping into the trams and selling the Evening Herald, I think it was, on the trams. And in the morning at about 4:30, my boss gave me a motorbike. And I used to put the newspapers in the back of the motorbike and drive all over Armidale and Malvern, throwing out newspapers in the morning. And the other job I got was I collected trolleys at, it was Woolies or Coles somewhere in Orrong Road, which I got sacked from very soon because I ran my trolley into some guy's Mercedes Benz and he told my boss. I mean, it was a pure accident, but he was not happy. So I got the boot from that. And then the third job I got, which was the one that I really loved, was I became a Mr. Flim Flam singing telegram man. And Ken, you would know that, but Matt, you're probably too young to know who Mr. Flim Flam was. But you had to dress up in a white boiler suit and wore white gloves, and you had a little pitch pipe and a peaked cap, and you went to people's birthday parties and Christmas functions, and you basically embarrassed them in front of their friends, you know, and you sang a song to them, and you made up a song to a familiar tune, you know. But that was fantastic fun. I used to go to some really crazy parties. One memorable party down in Elwood, it was a bikies party, and I walked in there and I had to find, you know, the client, the person whose birthday it was. And you can imagine, you know, this was about 11:30 on a Saturday night. And by that stage, these bikies were consuming all manner of substances. And when I walked in my white boiler suit and my white gloves and said I was going to sing a song, I think I was lucky to get away with the skin of my teeth there, but I did. And that's actually, as a Mr. Flim Flam singing telegram man, the people at Cop Shop, I mean, I had no intention of you know, I had no idea what was going to happen next. But anyway, the people at Cop Shop rang up my employers and said, "Oh, can you send along a Flim Flam man to sing a birthday to one of the characters in the show," which was Roy Baker. He was the kind of the goofy cop in Cop Shop. So I went on and I sang this Mr. Flim Flam song to Constable Roy Baker. I can't remember his real name, but that was the first time I ever did any TV.
Oh, so that was on the actual show.
Yeah, it was actually on the show. They recorded it. Yeah. So when you say I was in Cop Shop, that was the extent of my Cop Shop appearance. But while I was doing those 3 jobs, I was desperate because I'd left my banking and finance course that my father had set up. I was desperate to be financially independent, so I got all these jobs. And then I went to, in the afternoons, I went to an acting school, a private acting school. And I did drama and singing and tap dance and all that kind of stuff, because when I really thought about it, that was my passion. And I thought, bugger this, you get one go at this. I'm gonna do it. And I did 6 months there. And I remember buying a book about Stanislavski and the art of acting. And I learned lots of good lessons out of that book. But one of the things it said was that you have to have good emotional recall. And I'm thinking about my life and I'm thinking, well, that's something I'm quite good at. I'm in touch with, I feel that I can pick up on people's emotions, and I'm pretty aware of my own emotional state. And it also said that you had to be a keen observer. And I thought, well, that's something that I do in my life generally. I think I've always felt a little bit in the margins and on the outside. So I've always loved to watch people. And I always feel that I understand the little subtleties and nuances of people's behaviors. And I really love psychology and trying to work out, what's really going on behind the mask, if you like. And I read about this, and the other one was having good focus. And I always had great focus. I could always play those drama games where 2 people came close together and you have to try and make them laugh. My focus was dead set. I never laughed, So I thought, well, hell, these are qualities that I've got. I think I can really do this and give it a go. I auditioned for the VCA, the Victorian College of the Arts, and there we go.
Wow.
You've just about answered the question that I was next going to ask you, but
yes.
instead of that question about acting and when you knew that you wanted to be an actor, when they gave you the motorbike and when you became a trolley boy, were you actually focused on looking for a wire mesh fence?
No. I see what you mean. No, I was very safe. Yeah, well, maybe, yeah. Actually, look, now that you're prompting my memory, when I said before that I ran that trolley into that guy's Mercedes, I was fooling around. I wasn't actually pushing the trolley. I actually was in the trolley. And I'm very glad you jogged my memory, because that's the truth. So, yeah, it never left me, Ken. You're right. You picked up on something there. You psychologist, you.
Now, I'm thinking now we are on a little bit of a time constraint. Maybe we should move forward to prisoner, Ken, just so we can fit everything in. If that's okay.
Yes, as long as it's your turn to ask the next question.
Well, I just don't want to.
We can go back. We can go back and cover stuff if we've got a bit more time.
Are you sure? Okay. Well, let's get to just.
I'll leave it up to you. You guys are directing this, yeah.
Just so we don't miss out, because we'd hate for that.
Sure.
So we'll get to prisoner. You appeared in 58 episodes, from episode 625 until the final episode 692 in 1986. How did you get the part of Marty, and had you auditioned for any other roles before this, or prisoner?
Well, I didn't audition for prisoner. I think I got it off the back of my work in Sons and Daughters in a country practice. So I just got a phone call from my agent saying they want you for 2 weeks, which I guess was a bit of a probation period. And Glenda Linscott, who I shared a house with at the time, had gone down a few weeks previously. So I said, yeah, you bet, I'm going. And I was a Melbourne boy, but at the time I was living in Sydney. So yeah, I thought, wow, this is going to be really great and exciting.
Geez, that's rare that you didn't audition. A lot of cast from Prisoner had to audition, so that's a.
Oh, geez, I hope I haven't said anything wrong. Then maybe I did. I don't remember the audition. Let's leave it at that. Okay. I did have to audition for things like Sons and Daughters in a Country Practice and that kind of stuff. So maybe I did. I just can't remember.
You didn't know at the time it was going to be 58 episodes. You were just there for 2 weeks.
No. I was told it's a 2 weeks because, yeah, I think that was generally the formula. You know, people went for a guest appearance for a couple of weeks to do the studio and the OBs, the outside broadcasts, and
fantastic.
And then they said, yeah.
Were you actually aware of Prisoner or you know what it was and so forth?
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. Yeah, I knew it was one of Australia's, you know, best or most viewed soaps at the time, and I was never a big TV watcher, and I'm still not a big TV watcher. In fact, if I'm honest with you, I've watched more Prisoner episodes in the last week than I have watched in my whole life. And it's been fantastic actually to go back and watch them, because I don't think I just had such a fun time, and I really enjoyed working there. I didn't think about it or overanalyze my time in Prisoner. I just went along for the ride. I mean, hell, it was a well-oiled team. You know, the best thing you could do was just fit in and be taken for the ride. You know, but now in retrospect, 35 years watching it, it's been really cool to have that opportunity. Yeah, so thank you. But yeah, I and of course Glenda had gone, so I knew that, yeah, it was on the radar for sure.
Yeah. Now you played the third and final Marty. There was 2 Martys before you.
What is that all about? How does that work?
Ken thought you were
when I arrived on the first day and met Elspeth, she said, you realise you're my third reincarnation of my son. And that's when I first learnt about it. And I'm going, what? But like I said, I didn't overanalyze anything. I asked no questions. I said, I understand this is the way this genre of filmmaking and TV making works. So it was not a problem. It was not a drama. And I certainly didn't do any research into the previous Marty Jacksons at all. You know, I mean, that would have just been a dead end, really. Why bother? You know, who cares?
Yeah, definitely.
So at least she let you down gently and didn't say something like, "Oh, not another one."
Yeah. I didn't ask her how I compared with the others, so I was spared any honest feedback from her. But Elspeth was fantastic. She was just brilliant. She was so friendly and generous and accommodating, and because we had that relationship on screen, you know, as mother and son, it just kind of bled into our off-screen interactions, and she's a gem, and I'm sure I hope she's very happy and still alive with us. I don't know, I've not heard anything about Elspeth, but if you're out there, Elspeth, hi.
Did you know anything about the episodes and the story arc for those episodes over the time you were in, or before you began accepting the part? Did you know anything about what it entailed?
No, I didn't, Ken. I certainly never had any input into the storylines. I just assumed, you know, the writers and the producers, they did all that. I don't know. Thinking about it the other day, I thought, I guess people like Joan, maybe, you know, some of the more long-standing actors probably would have had some input and a say, maybe. I'm not sure, but lowly Marty Jackson had no input whatsoever. Like I said, whatever they gave me, I kind of just went with, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now I know this will probably be a hard question to answer because Prisoner had so many talented cast members, but who did you enjoy doing the scenes with the most? Like, did you have a favorite cast member that you just gelled with and it worked?
Well, I certainly loved working with Elspeth.
Yeah.
As I said, she made you feel really comfortable. And, you know, she was one of these actors that, you know, 10 seconds before we went action, we'd be talking and laughing and making fun of all sorts of things. But as soon as Stand By, you know, we just kind of, Elspeth just locked in and I locked in with her and away we went. So yeah, I loved working with Elspeth. And prompted by a question from one of the fans, you know, I really enjoyed working with Rosanne, who played Merle, Rosanne Hull-Brown, I think, yeah. And I guess because of her character, you know, I'm not exactly what the medical challenges that her character had, but I think developmentally her mind was, you know, somewhere at a primary school level.
Yeah.
So in a way, it kind of forced me as an actor to just work with her a little differently than some of the other actors. And it really forced me to listen to her, what she was saying. I mean, as an actor, I always try to really listen to what the other characters are saying and try and respond as I hear. But with Merle, it allowed me to kind of be a bit more low key, you know, to really watch, because I mean, I didn't know the actress at all. That was the first time I ever worked with her. Oh. And I thought she was fantastic and she was doing a great job. And I felt really to honor the work that she was doing and in the way she presented her character. I really had to listen and try and respond to the amazing offers that she was making constantly. So yeah, Elspeth and Rosanne were great.
Now that you've brought up Rosanne, sorry, just 1 second. I'm going to sneak in a fan question because this is a late fan question from Ollie James. He said, one of my favourite scenes was when Marty went to Ingleside to talk with Merle. Do you remember that scene where you went there? He thought your acting was just brilliant, and was pretty amazing. Do you remember much about shooting that scene?
Well, I watched it yesterday, just to kind of refresh my memory, and yes, I remember that now. Yeah. I guess, yeah. So Merle, you know, because Marty and Merle had a special relationship as well, we often found ourselves just the two of us working together. And going back to Stanislavski and his circles of attention, when he's talking about focus, the circles of attention when I worked with Merle were quite contained, you know, where, for instance, when you're working with a lot of the other cast, particularly with a group, your circle of attention is quite wide. You know, you're responding to stuff going on around you. But with Merle, it was always very intimate, very close and very personal. And like I said, as an actor, that gives you an opportunity to work in just a little different kind of a way, you know. So it was great. Yes, I remember that now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Did you have a favourite scene or episode or storyline that you were involved in? Can you remember any specific storylines?
Well, without going back to the videos that I've been doing the last week, I always remember the Blackmoor scene because it was a great location. They were old waterworks, I think, disbanded or So, and I think because the environment was so real, it was just nice to be there. You know, the OBs around the Nunawading studios, well, they were always TV studios, and you know, but going into the Blackmoor prison was special. Working with Shane Connor, who played Rita's brother, Bongo, I went to the VCA with him. So it was wonderful to work with Shane, and he's a very intense actor. I mean, he's a great actor. He's a great comedian as well, but obviously in this role that he played, it was quite an intense role. And I got to work a few scenes with him. So that was fantastic. And I got to run around with guns. You know, that was brilliant. I got to play with guns and all that kind of stuff. So that was fun.
I want to break down the Blackmoor episode with you shortly.
Oh, okay. All right. Going back to other people, Nick Carafa was also another VCA graduate that I worked with in that boat episode. Yeah. So it was lovely to work with him. And of course, Glenda, sharing a house with her with 4 other people, and then going down to work after she was there. Working with her was a real treat. You know, that was special as well.
That was my next question, was about Glenda. Have you got a funny story to share about living with Glenda at that time? Anything you can?
Yeah.
No.
No, not really. She was a great flatmate. You know, she was a real team player. And, you know, sometimes you find yourself in a shared household and, you know, one person has to do all the dishes all the time, you know, but I remember back then there were 5 of us and we all pulled our weight and, no, Glenda was great to live with and to work with for sure. Yeah, lovely person.
Are you still in contact with anyone from the show?
Just you guys. Yeah. No, look, I bumped into Philip Hyde once after working on Prisoner in an audition for a commercial, and that was it. And Glenda I saw a couple of times beyond, but no, I don't keep in touch with her. Really, when I got in touch, when you guys approached me for this, it's really just, you know, the most I've thought about Prisoner for yonks.
You have a funny story you can share about your time on Prisoner at all? Anything you can?
Well, yeah, look, no, other than what I said about Elspeth, you know, kind of mucking around off camera and then clicking straight into it. But just going back to the boat scene, the work experience scene, so I saw one of the questions was, you know, Rita pushes Desiree's character Del into the water, you know, and there's they had a stunt double for her to fall into the water. They said they had but unfortunately there were meant to be 2 stunts doubles, but one of them didn't turn up. My stunt double never turned up. So there was, you know, I was asked, you know, are you okay about diving into the Port Phillip Bay off the boat? And it wouldn't surprise you to hear that I said, yeah, of course, I'm no problems with that whatsoever. My biggest concern was the whole union thing, you know, because roles were pretty much, there was demarcations. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, am I going to be standing on someone's toes? And sure enough, a couple of it might have been the first AD or a couple of the crew were there and they were pushing back on it, you know, but the director was very keen for me to do it. I was really keen to do it. Anyway, the decision was made, Michael, if you're okay to do it, do it. And I said, yeah, no problems. But I do remember just before they called action and I was to run down the deck and launch myself off the back, the real captain of the boat just came up to me and just out of camera, he said, just make sure that you dive well out from behind the propellers, because if you don't, it'll suck you under. And I looked at him and said, thank you. That's all the motivation I need to make sure I dive well past the propellers.
So they had a real captain on the boat while you were shooting all that?
Well, yeah, someone who knew how to drive the boat, because I can tell you, Captain Ahab didn't. I don't remember his name, but he wasn't the real captain.
Lurch was driving it for a bit too.
Beg one?
Lurch was driving it for a little bit too.
Yeah, that was pretty scary, I can tell you. That's why I think that's why the director placed me right next to her, just in case. No, that's not true.
Was it cold jumping in? Like, was it a cold morning or a cold day?
I can't remember, but I went for a swim 2 days ago down here in Geelong, and the water temperature was 15 degrees. It took about 3 days for my testes to find their rightful place. So nothing would be as cold as it was a couple of days ago when I swam in Geelong. I don't remember it being cold. When I think about it now, I'm really frightened of sharks, and I don't know. I don't remember being frightened of sharks. I mean, this is Port Phillip Bay, you know. The bay is littered with meatworks. I didn't think about it.
I'm not sure if you know, but that boat is still there, and fans still go and visit that boat because that is
really?
Those episodes are such a fan favorite. Yeah.
Okay. I was watching it the other day, and the music they've got behind the boat chugging around is classic. Yeah, yeah, it's great.
Did you actually have a favourite director or writer?
Well, look, I really enjoyed working with Kendall Flanagan because he, from what I mean, I didn't know him personally, you know, and I only knew him through working. He didn't seem to take things too seriously. He seemed to be very down to earth. He was always joking around. So yeah, I enjoyed working with Kendall, but I also did enjoy working with, was it Tony Ossica, Sean? Those two guys in particular, I remember them because they were very focused about, and they were very considered. That's what I seem to remember, and I really appreciated it. You know, they took it seriously. You know, which you have to do. And Kendall was a ball of kind of energy. He always looked as if he had just stumbled out of bed. I seem to remember. You know, but
do you know his? Do you remember his nickname?
No. Can we repeat it on air?
Yes, his nickname was Loopy.
Loopy.
Well, there you go. I remember him to a T. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned Sean Nash just before. We had him on episode 16. He was amazing, Sean. We learned so much about him. Yeah. He's
a clever guy.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you had some amazing scenes with Victoria Rowland, who played Spike.
Yes.
What was it like working with Victoria? And do you think, had Prisoner gone on, Marty and Spike would have got together outside of the prison when she was released?
Well, look, I've got to be honest with you. I don't have huge memories of working with Victoria. And I'm just thinking now, did she go to the VCA? She might have been a VCA graduate. I'm not 100% sure. But she was, again, I mean, all the cast on Prisoner, they were consummate professionals. You know, you don't get a lot of time. You know, you've just got to kind of get in there and do your work. And it was sink or swim. You know, and all the cast, they swam, and they swam well in the waters of Prisoner. But she was wonderful to work with. You know, when you're working with other actors, you want actors that are making lots of offers and trying things, so you can respond. And she was one of those actors. And certainly, yeah, I guess that's where it looked like the script was going, wasn't it? There might have been some kind of romance brewing there. But as I said before, I had no input into the script, so I wouldn't know. I mean, obviously, you'd remember the romance that I think was written into Marty and Dell.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, it evaporated. I don't know why it evaporated or how it evaporated, but that's, I think when Phil and Desiree and I arrived, you know, I was the good, that was the days when I had hair and it was blonde, but you know, I was the good guy with the blonde hair. Phil was the bad guy with the dark hair, and Desiree was the love interest with me. That's where I thought it was going, you know. So yeah, getting back to Victoria, who knows? It was in the lap of the writers.
It did look like that with Desiree, because Desiree's character was sort of similar to Meg Morris in a certain way. And
yes,
yeah, so it would have worked.
Yeah, she was trying to, I think she was wanting Marty Jackson to invite her out all the time, and Marty always had something else on his mind, on his plate, you know. So her love was unrequited. Sorry, blame the script writers.
Yeah.
Matt, I think we covered the next question from me, so over to you.
So do you remember the moment when Prisoner was cancelled, like when you were told it was all over? Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah.
What it was like?
Yeah, there were rumours that you got your best gossip in the makeup and wardrobe room. Yeah, yeah. The news always seemed to hit the makeup department before anyone else. I don't know, Ken, you guys probably knew what was going on, but yeah, so there had been rumours for a few weeks, you know, mutterings and mumblings about ratings and stuff like that, you know, which I really felt for the cast that had been there for many, many years, and the crew, you know, people who had, devoted their life to this program. And I really felt for them. For someone like me, I was there for the last 9 months or whatever it is. So in a way, it was kind of like another gig for me. But I certainly, so the ramifications weren't so profound for me, but I do remember those whispers and words like ratings and stuff like that. And but I can't remember the exact moment that someone said that it's finished. I might have heard from my agent, perhaps, before that. Yeah.
Do you think it could have gone on? Do you think it had more legs in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nature of the beast is that kind of genre of TV. You're limited by your imagination. I mean, what about Coronation Street? How many years did that go on? And all those other great soaps, it could have gone on if I guess if the powers of be that who wanted it to go on. Maybe it was a ratings thing. I don't know. Maybe, it's a bit of a cutthroat business, I guess. If the ratings drop below a threshold, they just pull the plug. Yeah. It's a financial consideration. I don't know. I'm simply, surmising here.
Have you ever watched the reimagining of Prisoner Wentworth, and what do you think about it if you did?
Yeah, no, I haven't, Ken. I as I said before, I don't watch a lot of telly, and in a way, I don't want to spoil the experience of Prisoner. I mean, even when they started calling it Prisoner Cell Block H, pissed me off. and I think they called it Cell Block H when it went to the UK. Was that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
To differentiate it from The Prisoner with Patrick McGowan, which had happened years before, but they decided that they needed a different name. But I always think about it in the terms of one word.
Yeah,
it says it all to me.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that we are on time constraints, so we were going to do some episodes and breakdowns, but they would take up a majority of time. So I'm thinking Ken will just pick one each, if you like, and then we can hit the fan questions. Because I know the fans would be very disappointed if we didn't get their questions in. So
sure.
Your next one was about working with Elspeth, which we have covered, and then my next one was about episode 629, which first aired on the 5th of June, 1986, which was written by Sean Nash and directed by Tony Ossiker. And the studio cameramen were Ken Mulholland, Jeff Biggs, and Andrew Curry. So this is when Mrs. Reynolds, the governor of Wentworth, comes and visits you at the training school to talk to you about your posting at Wentworth. What was it like working with Gerda? Do you have any memories of Gerda that you can share with us?
Yeah, I had a look at that episode yesterday again, and Gerda, again, a consummate professional. She was fantastic, and because her character and Meg were kind of allies, in the scheme of things there. I did quite a few scenes with her in her office and Elspeth, but yeah, again, a real professional, wonderful to work with. Again, you feel really comfortable working with her, always at ease. And that scene that you're talking about, again, I love doing the outside broadcast because when you're outside of the studio, it just feels more real, and as an actor, I don't know, I could just feel a bit more relaxed and be affected by what's going on. When you're in a studio and you've got 5 cameras and lights and all these faceless people running around there, it's a bit hard to break that third wall, but on location. So that lovely little scene with Gerda sitting outside, it was a beautiful sunny day in front of some flower beds, with this beautiful mansion in the background, was really,
I was
really
going to ask
nice.
you about that. That obviously wasn't a training school for prison officers, was it? I mean, they had the signs up, but do you remember where that was? Or
well, it was a building that became Frognall. The RAAF base took it over. I think it was a building in Mont Albert, or Mont Albert Road in Canterbury. It was somebody's mansion, and originally it was built in the late 1800s. It was privately owned. Then the RAAF took it over, and it became, during the war, it became a wireless telecommunications building. And then the RAF did their training there. for many years. And I think it closed down in 1986, and some fella bought it, or some person bought it, went back into private hands.
Yeah.
That's what I think, if my memory is correct.
Wow.
And we could go to the Blackmoor Riots.
I was thinking
Yeah,
that.
I love a good riot.
Nothing like a good riot. This was episode 667, first went to air on the 18th of September 1986. Was written by Ian Smith and Gail Smith, directed by Tony Osica. Studio cameramen were Jeff Biggs, Andrew Curry, and myself. And this is the great Blackmoor Riots. You and Joan Ferguson are sent to Blackmoor to help Governor Craven, played by the legendary Ray Meagher. You tell Craven that you know Connors and what makes her tick, and you want to go down and talk to Bongo, played by Shane Connor. Craven agrees, but unbeknown to you, he organises a raid and is using you as a decoy. He orders you to back away. Yes, as a decoy. Then he orders you to back away, but you don't listen. And as you are checking on Bongo, as he's handcuffed to the grate in the courtyard, Craven orders officers to shoot. You run for fear of being shot. You are furious with Craven and tell him what you think of him in no uncertain terms, but his criminal handling of the riot, he then orders you to get out of his sight. What was it like filming the Blackmoor scenes and working with with Ray Meagher, who now is an integral part of Neighbours, who has become famous for his role of Alf Stewart? Sorry, and
Well,
in Home and Away.
Home and Away.
Yes. So again, working on location in those surroundings, it just added another level of realism to the whole performance and the whole scene, and you know the effects of what's going on. So again, if I may quote Stanislavski again, going back to that circle of attention, you know, when you were in that courtyard and you're looking up, you know, you're not just seeing studio lights and the roof, or maybe one of the cameramen, perhaps Ken, walking around. You know, you're actually seeing the real buildings, you know, and the real grates on the windows, and that all adds as an actor to the authenticity of the moment. So that was a real privilege to work in those great locations. Working with Ray again, a really well-established professional actor, you know, right on cue, strong intention, gets all the words right, plenty of emotion. So yeah, lovely to be able to work off him, and particularly the character, as you said, Ken, you know, he pushes back against the character of Craven. So there's something to work with there as the actor, you know, to play off him. So yep, lovely. And I actually got to work with Ray again a couple of years ago in a film that I was producing, and he was one of the cast, and so we got to touch base and relive a few of the old prisoner memories. But his acting, you know, he was still the consummate professional once again, you know, just brilliant. Puts everybody at ease, not only his fellow cast, but the crew as well. And, you know, everything is well in the world when you're working with people like that.
Yeah. I just want to touch on the Blackmoor, that scene in particular with you and Ray, where you're both shouting at each other. I mean, that was a very intense scene. How did you set yourself up to play that scene? I mean, were you in the whole headspace because of what was going on?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said before, with this kind of acting and this genre of script and performance, I think it can be a danger to overthink things. But so as an actor, I found myself really just trying to get strong intentions and try and capture the emotion of the moment. So I would give myself things. What is my objective here? What do I want to do? in this interaction with this fellow actor. So I just give myself a bit of a heading to say, this is my objective, and then find different ways to try and accomplish that objective, you know. And then sometimes there might be an obstacle to stop you from achieving your objective. So for instance, in that scene, you know, my objective might be to bring him down a peg, or to tell him off, or to get him to say to me, go down there, or something like that. But my obstacle, the thing that's stopping me from going all the way, is I don't want to get fired, or I don't want him to tell my mother, Meg, because I would get into trouble. So as an actor, it's a bit of a balancing act. You know, you've got a strong intention, but you've also got a strong kind of obstacle, which as an actor you can play on. So in terms of my preparation as an actor, I just tried to give myself very quick, key trigger things to try and get me into the moment. And of course, when you're working with other great actors, listening and responding is probably your first fallback. You know, you're just kind of responding to what they're giving you.
Yeah, great. No, because I mean, your emotional scenes, you had a lot of them, and they were so real. I mean, it was fantastic to watch, and revisiting all the episodes, you know, in the last few months as well. And it still stands to this time, you know, the acting on that show. It was brilliant. Right. Yeah. Can I sneak one more episode in before we get to the fan questions, which was episode 671, which aired on the 2nd of October, 1986, written by Ian Smith and Gail Smith, directed by Gary Conway. And the cameramen were Wayne Lavender, Jeff Biggs, and Mark Collins, and I'm sure Ken would have been there. So this is, this is just off the back of the Blackmoor episodes. And Craven's had Rita beaten up, and Lorelei, played by Paula Duncan's been raped, and there was a lot of, it was a very dark time of prisoners. What did you think of those storylines at that time, of how dark it was getting compared to when you first started on the show?
Yeah, I enjoyed them. I loved them. Like I said before, whatever they wrote, whatever they threw at me, I was happy to do. But yeah, a bit of variety and interesting locations. And I think, you know, we saw some of the characters in different scenarios, in different situations that perhaps we weren't used to. So that allowed the actors playing those characters, people like Glenda, you know, to show perhaps a different side of the character, Rita. So yeah, I think it's all power to the scriptwriters for doing that. And it being dark or not dark, well, yeah, that didn't bother me. You know, I think I'm into realism and stuff like that, so that was good. But just, sorry, Matt, just picking up on one of your points before, you said what was one of the highlights, and you just reminded me that I got kissed by Paula Duncan, or Lorelei,
Wow.
on camera, and that was a real highlight. That was great. She was fantastic to work with. She was a bit of an icon back then as well, you know, and I think it was in one of the very early episodes, and her character was a bit of a flirt, and she sprung a surprise kiss on me, and I was just thinking, oh, that was nice. That was a bit of a highlight.
Yeah, she's great. Still looks amazing now. And you also worked with Cheryl Monks, who played Brumby Tucker. She was on Talking Prisoner as well. She was time
I think she came in round about the same time as me, perhaps a bit earlier. But yeah, there were a group of new women that arrived that I think saw us through to the end of the episode. So I worked with those ladies. They were great. Yeah. Cheryl was fantastic.
Yeah, she is.
Okay, some fan questions. Bonnie Davis Shacko asks, I would love to know where you drew on your experience to work with Merle when she was really upset, and do you have any experience with special needs folks? And Bonnie Davis is a big fan from the USA.
Also said Marty #3 is #1.
Okay, I have no idea what that means, but great. I love a hashtag. I love a good hashtag. That's not a hash brown, is it? Oh, it's hash browns that I love. Yeah, that's right. Hashtag. Yes, I know. Look, I didn't have any experience working with people with, you know, intellectual challenges or mental health challenges at the time. Although since Prisoner, I have gone on to do quite a bit of work in that area. But as I said before, I just I really used the opportunity to listen to Rosanne as an actor, because she was right across that character of Merle.
Yeah.
So it was easy to work with her, and my character had an affinity with her. You know, it was to be gentle with her, to listen to her, to make her feel comfortable. You know, so that might have been an objective, for instance, like I was talking about before. You know, to try and make Merle feel comfortable in this moment. You know, because she was often anxious and worried and stuff like that. You know, so. Marty's character was always a bit of a pacifier, you know, and he was an idealist. He always saw the best in people. Yeah. So he always tried to work on the best in the characters, except for Philip, except for that dude, Philip. I didn't work his character, Rodney. There was no good in him. No.
Actually, that was one of our questions in one of the episodes we're going to break down with you. What was it like working with Philip and, you know, his character, Rodney Adams, at the time?
Yeah, great. We joined together, you know, so we kind of went on the journey together. And we spent a lot of time together off set, you know, doing things together. So that was nice. We were kind of a support to each other. But it's funny, you know, as the time progressed and the characters kind of had more and more altercations. And I think his character journey kind of got linked in with the Freak a lot more towards the end, because they were a bit kind of a pair, weren't they? You know, they were the nasty ones. So I had less and less to do with him as the show progressed. But no, it was wonderful working with Phil. Yeah. And Desiree, of course, because the three of us joined together at the same time.
Yeah, she's amazing. The next one was from Darren Hembro. We sort of touched on what you said. He was saying fantastic news, great actor, played the role fantastically. And he did want to ask how you approached the role of Marty, and if Marty and yourself share similar qualities.
Well, a great technique for an actor, obviously, is to draw on your own experiences, your own life, and your own personal traits. And I think particularly in this genre, that's kind of, well, certainly what I did. And so I just tried to accentuate and bring out, you know, those aspects of myself that were obviously in Marty's character. So, yeah, but you know, there's a whole side of Michael Winchester that we don't get to see in Marty Jackson, because it's not written in the script. You know, it's not that kind of genre. So yeah, you know, that's I guess that's why, you know, this thing about being typecast comes into it, because you find as an actor in a particular genre of filmmaking or TV making, you only get to draw on a certain side of yourself, and it's, you know, so actors crave different roles and different genres to allow them to produce different aspects of their work. Yeah.
Jason Burridge said, when Michael came into the show, did he know or have the feeling its days were numbered? Well, we sort of covered most of that. But he also says, were there storylines for him that we never got to see because of this? And what were his memories of filming the series finale?
So I never knew, when I arrived, I never knew that it was going to end. So I didn't know anything about that. And I had no input into the storylines. That was the second part of the question, wasn't it? And filming the last scene, or the last episode. So that last scene was outside broadcast. So we did that the week before, then went into the studio to film those final scenes, or the scenes inside. So I do remember the final scene where we're all outside and the Freak is being carted off in the police car, and, you know, Elspeth was there, and Gerda and some of the other long-standing cast members, and it was I knew that this was going to be, you know, the last episode, and it was sad to know. It was a lovely, gentle way to end for us. We all just kind of drifted off out of frame, but it was definitely sad that we were coming to a close. But again, I felt more for the cast and crew that had been there for a long term. You know, for me, it was the end of a fantastic time, and I was going to be moving on to something else. But yeah, that was a nice scene.
Yeah. What did you think of the ending? Ferguson going to jail.
It was inevitable, wasn't it? It had to happen. What would have happened if we'd come back for another series? They would have brought back another Freak Mark II, and maybe a Marty Jackson Mark IV.
Rick Newsham said, was the rest of the cast helpful and supportive when you're on?
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. Even you know, that I think one of my first scenes where the character Marty's introduced to all the women, and you know, they were a really tight-knit group of actors. And even the women that were had the non-speaking roles. Like I said to you before, my job was simply to just fit into this really well-oiled machine. And they were all very, very supportive, very, very welcoming, from the crew to the non-speaking actors to the main cast, the directors, the producers, everybody. It was just, yeah, it was a great feeling. Yeah.
Richard Bobbins Duffer from the UK says it looked like, well, to me at least, that you were heading for a relationship with Delia Stout. Was that ever the intention, and was it a storyline cut short by the decision to end the series? Delia did just disappear.
Well, as we said before, yes, it was looking like there was going to be a bit of a romance going on between my character and Desiree's character, Delia. I had no input into the script, so it just seemed to fade from the radar. But I don't remember it. I remember it kind of fading a bit earlier than the show coming to an end. But who knows? Maybe it was going to happen. Maybe Marty and Del were going to get married.
Yeah.
We were going to have the wedding of the century.
And then you could have had an affair with Spike while you're married to Delia.
Oh.
I mean, here we go.
Don't complicate things.
Aid Parsley, he asked about working with Philip Hyde, which we've spoken about. He also said, so looking forward to this. I had the biggest crush on Michael when I was younger. From Aid. Must be that blonde hair.
Lovely. Yeah, well, I was a bit younger then. That's sweet. Lovely.
I've got one from Michael Reeves, who I actually met about 2004. Had lunch with him and so forth. And he says, ask him about his amazingly talented daughter, singer-songwriter Georgie.
A lot of fans,
yes.
A lot of other fans have asked about as well, if I can add.
Yeah, I know. I keep getting some Facebook messages from. It's a strange mix between Prisoner and Georgie, my daughter's career, that's really taking off. And yes, Michael, she's incredibly talented, wonderful musician, guitar player, and she writes all her own stuff. You know, I'm learning. Wow. I know very little about the music industry, but as I watch her career unfold, because she writes all her own material, it just kind of like opens up the career for her. And she's written so many songs, and she's not just always doing covers, you know, so it gives her another string to the bow. But yeah, people are just flocking to her and her bands and the other people that she works with. So it's lovely to watch her play. In fact, it's because of her that I've picked up the guitar again, and I'm busily trying to progress from 3 chords to 4 chords now, thanks to her.
What's her
band? Baby Turpentino is one of her bands. It's a duo.
Okay.
And yeah, and then she's got another band, and they're based in Newcastle at the moment, but they're playing up at Byron and touring, and yeah, just Google Georgie Winchester, and you'll get all the links you need to where she's playing and her music. Yeah. So thank you. And Michael Reeves, the fellow who just said that, he also sings and plays the guitar, so you should check him out as well.
A free plug.
Free. Shameless.
We'll put a link up. Does she have a website? We'll put a link up to your daughter.
I can,
well, for sure.
Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Scott Whiteley said, I really liked his work on both Sons and Daughters and Prisoner. I suppose he enjoyed working with Judy Nunn, who played his mum on Sons and Daughters. Also, Judy is a great gal. You should get Judy on, who played Joyce Martin on Prisoner during the first season, 1979 too. So do you have many memories working with Judy on Sons and Daughters?
Well, just going back before Judy Nunn, the first mother to play one of my characters was Judy Farr in A Country Practice. So both Judys, great actors, and Judy Nunn, yeah, you know, she's very experienced working in drama TV, such as, you know, all the soaps. So yeah, again, lovely to work with her. Yeah, it's funny. I've looked back at all the actresses that have played my mother over the years, you know, and they all have very similar qualities to them. All great actors for sure, but also just in appearances and the storylines. It's funny, you know, how the storylines kind of keep repeating, and the character traits that script writers pick up on seem to repeat themselves over the different soaps.
You just mentioned Judy Farr, who was, of course, Ted Bullpitt's wife on Kingswood Country. What was it like working with her?
Well, it was very early on in my career, so she was an established actress, and again, you know, I just kind of I just listened and watched and learned, and so yeah, she was great to work with. Again, very accommodating and encouraging and supportive, you know. Yeah.
Right.
Here's for the Judys.
Yeah.
All the Judys of the world.
I've got one from Lee Van Frills from Newport in South Wales, UK. In the short time you had the role of Marty, you played a central role in some of Prisoner's most memorable storylines. From your fear of fire and your helping with the bushfires, the setting up of the work experience program, the famous boat episodes, of course, to the infamous confrontation you had with cruel and corrupt Blackmoor Governor Ernest Craven. What was your most memorable moment in Prisoner?
I've probably already said this, but I'm happy to repeat it. Is that okay? Or do you do some fancy editing, you guys?
No, just repeat it.
Go ahead.
Well, certainly diving off the boat into Port Phillip Bay is something I shall always remember. And the Blackmoor scenes, I'll certainly remember those, running around with the rifles and just working in that great location. But just the fun with working with the women, particularly Elspeth, but also the big group scenes, you know, when all the women were in the rec room, you know, and just that feeling that they all generated. And again, not just the main cast, but the actor cast that had the non-speaking roles, you know, they were such an integral part of the success of the program and the atmosphere on set. And you probably notice, you know, the character Marty Jackson spent a lot of time in crowd control, you know, like, all right, that's enough. All right, you ladies, come over now. That's enough. What, you know, kind of just, it's a bit like trying to corral smoke into a test tube, you know, it's just really difficult. But that was always a lot of fun, you know, and there were times, you know, in some of the crowd scenes where, you know, because there was a lot of movement going on, you know, as you walk past one of the cast, you might just kind of like whisper something out of the side of your mouth that you knew the camera wasn't going to pick up on, you know. So, gee, you're a bit slow today, aren't you? You know, it's little things like that. So, but those kind of moments, you know, just kind of lighten things up and just keep a bit of a buoyancy in the whole work. Because, Ken, you would know, you know, you're churning out a lot of footage in a really short time. And, you know, there were times when it got really, really intense. And if we were behind the 8 ball in terms of time, you had to kind of really focus. But it was important to keep things light. And the cast that had been around for a long time, they knew that. And they knew when to just kind of break the tension, just get everyone to breathe again before we kind of kicked on. Because, you know, the deadline was fast approaching.
Speaking of deadlines, ours is as well.
Sorry, yeah.
Steve Bellamy said, "Hi, Michael. Liked you in Bodyline as well as Marty Jackson in Prisoner. Did you have any cricketers of the day coaching you, or was it a natural ability?"
Well, I did used to play schoolboy cricket, so I knew my way around a cricket pitch. But for the Bodyline series, I played an Aussie batsman called Stan McCabe. And the part that Stan McCabe played in the famous 1932 Bodyline series was that he scored 187 runs off Harold Larwood, who was the main protagonist in the test between the Australians and the English. And he was bowling those Bodyline bouncers that the ball would rise up, a high-pitched delivery and sort of for the head and for the heart. So in Bodyline, the character that I played, Stan McCabe, he was an excellent hooker. So he really took Harold Larwood to task. So I had to play a lot of these particular kind of shots in the miniseries. So we had an ex-test cricketer called Peter Philpott. He wasn't a batsman, but he was a spin bowler, a test spin bowler. So he was our kind of advisor in terms of the whole cricketing. And we had a couple of other cricketers from the Australian Institute of Sport who kept us all kind of looking good. But all those sort of close mid shots, they're all fake. You've got someone standing just out of the shot, throwing the ball at my head. But of course, I've got lots of time. I know what's coming, so I'm able to kind of hit them off. And it looked pretty good. It was pretty convincing, I thought. But yeah, that was a great series to do. Fantastic. Yeah, I loved it.
I've got one from Mickey C, which is a little bit of a loaded question. How did the cast and crew compare on Sons and Daughters with Prisoner?
Oh, they were bloody awful. Oh, shocking. Shocking bunch of motley no-hopers. God, yeah. Now I'm talking about the Prisoner crew, not the Sons and Daughters crew. No, they were all fantastic. Again, Sons and Daughters, another show that had been around for a long time. They knew what they were doing, and yeah. I mean, the Prisoner, Sons and Daughters Country, all those soap operas, they work to a particular formula, and it's an incredibly difficult formula to get right, from the script writers to the editors to the camera people and everybody. We don't have a lot of time, so everyone just has to kind of do their bit as quickly and as efficiently as they can. And shows like that don't run for a long time if they're not working and functioning well.
Yeah.
And that was the case with both Prisoner and Sons and Daughters. Yeah.
The next question was James Murphy, which was about the last episode. So we've covered that one. So we'll go to the next one for Ken.
Yes, from Isabel Lorraine Cuthbert. Are you still surprised at how big the fan base for Prisoner is?
Yeah, incredibly surprised. I mean, when I just left Prisoner, I would get, occasional letters from fans, a lot from the UK. But I had no idea. It really wasn't until you folk contacted me And Barry Parker contacted me for this, the prisoner reunions, that I really had any idea of the depth of the fan base. So yeah, no, I had no idea. I'm so naive.
Before we wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about Bathing Franky, which you wrote, produced, and starred in?
Yeah, well, I guess I'd spent most of my career, well, all my career, working as an actor, and it was always on my bucket list to get on the other side of the camera where Ken dwelled, and I wanted to produce a film. I wanted to write a film, so I said, okay, let's do it. So at the time I was living in the Hunter Valley. I was working I had 200 acres. I was a biodynamic beef farmer, believe it or not. And I'd set up this farm, and I suddenly had a lot of time. I had a lot of time on my hands. The farm was running smoothly. I had a little organic business going there. And I thought, well, now it's time. I want to get back into this. So I wrote this film called Bathing Franky, and we shot it with a budget of $26,000 in the bank, and that was going to cover Henri Szeps' fee, Sean Goss, or the main cast, Henri Szeps, Maria Venuti, and a couple of the key crew. The lighting person and Ken, the camera person. They were the key crew. And once I had enough money to pay them, we launched into it. And it was fantastic. We got some international sales out of it, and it's still getting people watching it now. 8 years ago, Bathing Franky. Google it, have a look at it. Yeah. It's not the quintessential Australian movie, but it's not bad. It's pretty good.
What was it like working with Henri? He's a great actor.
Oh my gosh! I mean, he's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, every second, talking about people that can focus on screen and then just suddenly click off when he's not on camera and tell a joke. That was Henri. But yeah, when he turned up to the audition, already dressed as the character, when we met for lunch in a restaurant, and yeah, he's just such a ball of energy and a great actor.
Yeah.
Maria Venuti was, wow, she is larger than life. A great Melbourne icon, celebrity personality, and she played a great character, this elderly woman who was approaching the end of her life. Played it with great subtlety and conviction and feeling. Wonderful. The two of them, the chemistry between Henri and Maria was just superb. Yeah. Okay, that's enough shameless plugging.
No, I was actually speaking of shameless plugins. What are you working on at the moment? Is there anything you can share with the fans that what you're up to these days?
Geez, I'm trying to retire, but I've just finished doing a 2-part radio documentary for ABC's Radio National called Danny's Inferno, and it's based on the Whiskey A Go-Go firebombing of the Brisbane nightclub back in 1973. Oh, wow. And those of you who might be following that case, because it's been in the news lately, there's a inquest going on at the moment, because like so many of these stories, they got the wrong people, corrupt cops were involved, and the people they put into jail shouldn't have gone into jail for what they said they had done. So, I happened to meet the nephew of the person who went to prison for the crime. Wow. And he had written this manuscript, and he said, I'd love you to make a film. So we're going to make this film, but as one of the steps of making the film was to make this podcast as a proof of concept, because I'm going to take this podcast. I only need $25 million, but I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this podcast and hawk it around to some producers.
So that's going to be a doco you're going to make, or a film?
No, I'm going to make a drama. It's either going to be a film. I mean, ideally, it's got to be a 25-part TV series, That's really where it sits. But like I said, you need 25 mil at least, and you need the BBC involved, you need Netflix involved, you need, whole. Ken, are you still working?
Yeah, he's still there.
No, I'm not. But yes, I am.
Okay, all right.
I'm doing this. And
oh,
Matt,
yeah.
You've got that 26 mil down the back of your couch, haven't you?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh Matt.
Oh,
okay,
no.
we must talk.
Just down the back of your couch there.
Isn't it amazing, though, like people that are in jail for things they hadn't done? I mean, I just recently, the people that were put in jail for killing Malcolm X have just been released.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't do it. And I mean, this is like...
And of course, it happens 20, 30, 40 years down the track. And of course, by that stage, their life is in tatters if they haven't died already. It's just...
very sad.
Some things never change. Anyway,
Well, we look forward to that because that sounds really interesting. I hope it does get up because...
Yeah, it's... Earshot. Earshot is the name of the ABC Radio National podcast. So those of you out there who follow Radio National, you'll be hearing about it soon.
Amazing.
Watch it and like it. Like it.
We will
share it.
Sure. We will share it as well. That was
what you say. What about a hashtag? Can we put a hashtag in there?
Yeah. We'll
Hash brown.
Hash brown. Quite right.
Maybe we crowdfund the 25 mil as well.
Yeah.
That was episode 24 of Talking Prisoner. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share our videos where you can. Please also like our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, and all the socials. And this episode of Talking Prisoner is across all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and all the other ones, iHeart, and also on the talkingprisoner.com website. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Michael, and thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute honor.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you to you. Thanks to you both, and thanks to all the fans out there who submitted questions, and I've really appreciated the opportunity. So stay well and stay safe.